So I've just gone over to 4G and it takes a little while to switch across. So yeah, so I'll ask the question again in case it broke up. We are in a unique situation at the moment. We did chat a few weeks ago, and I was wondering from a solicitor's perspective, what's changed with land registry, how you're getting deals through at the moment, what's going on out there, and where you see things going. So I'll let you take over from here for a little while.
So just to kind of give you an overview of where we are, obviously everyone knows the current situation out there. There has been some guidance issued by the government and also the Law Society, specifically for property practitioners, so conveyancers and licensed conveyancers. But that's not actually been updated since the 29th of March this year. So the guidance remains the same. And what it says is that we should obviously prioritise the health of individuals and the public when considering undertaking conveyancing transactions. And then there's a whole range of guidance about whether we have exchanged already on a property, what happens if we have a completion date coming up, what do we do with occupied and unoccupied properties, how do removal companies support the property market and solicitors, and how valuers should work as well with solicitors as well. I'm not sure whether you want me to go through any specific points in relation to the guidance and how it's kind of affected clients and the work I do.
Kind of an overview that if somebody wanted to buy a property to move into themselves, and if they wanted to add another buy-to-let property at the moment, what's the process? How is it working? How are they making it happen?
Well, I mean, the government are still obviously trying to move the market forward. So let's just say if you've already exchanged contracts, so we've exchanged contracts, so we're in a legally binding agreement to purchase a property, whether that be a home or a buy-to-let. What the government say and what the Law Society say is if the property you are purchasing is unoccupied, then continue with the transaction because the risk is low because it's unoccupied, there's no one there, and therefore contact with individuals should be minimum. However, if the property we are buying is occupied, then the recommendation is that both parties, both the buyer and seller, should work together to try and delay either exchange or completion. So if exchange has happened, then what we need to do as conveyancers is basically amend the contract. So we delay the completion date, and that's done by mutual agreement. And that's what the initial advice is. If we encounter difficulties with regards to that, then I mean they're quite quiet on that actually, to be honest with you, and I think then it's a matter of negotiation, and we're going to have to say, well, look, we need to follow government advice. Unless you're in a train, then there's no real reason why you can't delay completion. But if you're in a train, then let's work out in the chain where this could potentially collapse, and see how we can overcome this.
Okay, so but there are still quite a few viewings being done where people or estate agents are going in and showing people properties, but they're opening a door and leaving them to walk around on their own devices and then leave again, and then they go back and lock up. But also, people that are in a chain where they're kind of moving, a day or whatever ahead of the other party. so there's no overlap.
Yeah, yeah. So with obviously viewings, I know some commercial agents that obviously are trying to get back into business and trying to work out ways to kind of get commercial viewings done. And what they're doing, and I've seen this actually today, is they're making both the landlord and prospective tenant sign a waiver form or basic kind of information form where it's just a tick box about whether you've had any symptoms, whether you've self-isolated, whether you've been in contact with anyone else before. And then if it all comes back fairly clear, then they're undertaking viewings, bearing in mind the government guidelines on social distancing, but also advising people that if you do come, then please wear a mask and wear gloves as well. So I mean, people are trying to get back into business. With regards to surveys, just looking now at what the government's saying, and again that advice hasn't changed since the 26th of March. It's saying surveyors should not expect to carry out any non-urgent surveys in homes where people find residence, and no inspection should take place if any person in the property is showing symptoms, self-isolating or shielding. This obviously presents slight problems if we want to get valuations done, or if we've exchanged property on a property and we've agreed an extended completion date, and the bank, for example, want to come in and revalue the property, because as you know, lenders have agreed to extend mortgage instructions for 3 months. So if your mortgage offer is coming to an end, then lenders have agreed with UK Finance that all current mortgage instructions will be extended by 3 months. But I stress that it's very important that you get that confirmed in writing from your particular lender, and some lenders as well usually have a time period for when the valuation is valid for. So if it's 6 months, then that makes it, well, if it's extended for 3 months, we may want to revalue because we've gone past that 6 month period. But also COVID may have affected the property price, and therefore we want to get revalued. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah, how's land registry working at the moment?
So when we last spoke, I gave an overview of a land registry update that they had sent to commencers actually early that day, and since then I've not had anything. But my experience of how it's going since we last spoke, it feels like it's moving a lot slower than they said it would. So some applications I've sent in have been acknowledged, and I can see that they are being acknowledged on the internal portal that we have. So we have an e-business portal, so I can see that it's been processed and been acknowledged. But the speed of those applications being turned around is not as quick as before. It's probably because their offices are closed, that people are not going in, and so things are moving inevitably a lot more slower than they should be, really.
Did I read a little while ago that they're allowing a different type of signature now on land registry documents?
Absolutely, yeah. So they have temporarily changed requirements for signature. So usually the process was that we as conveyancers needed the wet signature copy, so i.e. the original signature copy, where we would have that in our file, photocopy and certify that as a true copy of the original. And that's what was acceptable to land registry. Now the requirement has changed, so you could actually sign something, scan it, and then we would put that on the document, and we could place all signatures on the document and use that document as a document that gets submitted into land registry. So it's temporarily changed, and the reason for that is because obviously they understand that meeting people to get signatures, to get things witnessed, going to the post office, etc., is obviously problematic at the moment. So to encourage movement and not slow down in applications and registrations and transactions, that they have to think of something else to be able to get this done. So that's what they've done at the moment. And I've not actually used that before, but some conveyancers have, and it seems to be working fine.
Okay, cool. So all in all, a bit slower than what you thought it might be, but it's still kind of working forward slowly. Yeah, would you say that's about where we are? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think things are working. I'm still working. We're all trying to work, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we can't work as quick as we used to, and I've had a few clients that pulled out due to COVID, but I'd say the majority of my clients are because they are property investors, developers, etc. They're still moving ahead on the transactions and the agreements that they have instructed me to undertake. I'd say it's probably the house moves that have slowed down or been pulled.
So what's your transactional? Yeah. So what's your transactional? Were you 50% down, 20% down, 10% down on where we were before we went into this?
If I'm really honest, I'd probably say something more towards like the 60-70% then.
Okay, so a lot less transactions taking place.
Less residential transactions taking place, definitely.
And the buy-to-let side of things?
The buy-to-let, I'd probably say that's down by about half.
Okay. So you're obviously in the middle of a transaction for me where we're buying some land at just under 1.3, and I've got like JV partners, but because it's just land,
yes.
I know you've got like 9 lots of transactions to do with JV partners where they're putting cash into the deal. But that type of thing, it shouldn't be affected at all, should it?
See, I don't think so. So when we look at something like that, obviously you're buying land with the planning. So when we look at that, obviously the construction industry has been encouraged to keep going. So once we acquire that, or once you acquire that, obviously we can get work to continue. There's nothing going to prohibit the work because contractors can come on site. There's obviously going to be a timeline for when that development actually completes, and by that time we'll be out of COVID. Hopefully there'll be no issues. The market will hopefully recover. So I think in that scenario, like you and a lot of other property developers, investors, kind of think more ahead rather than what's going on now.
Yeah.
You just look. We've got the 9 investors, so obviously they clearly see it the way we see it, that it's actually an opportunity, and we should put our money in, and we should go ahead with this deal.
Yeah, and it's a very good return, and there's nearly £1 million profit in it if they sell at the price we expect them to sell. So, but yeah, from a transactional point of view, that was everyday business, and buying plots shouldn't change. Building them out, slightly less contractors on site, but speaking to a builder a few weeks ago, that's gradually coming back to normal. And materials were the other challenge. and buying at the best prices because they remain competitive. And again, that's opened right up again as well. So, from that perspective, we're heading a little bit more back to normal. As per
what Boris said as well on Sunday, that manufacturing, construction all needs to continue. I appreciate, obviously, from a business or employment point of view, like changes need to be made in factories and construction sites, etc. But and you'll get a few people that will be scared to go back to work. But generally, people want to go back to work. They want to get back into business. I appreciate adjustments have to be made, but there's encouragement that certain industries need to get restarted, and certain industries should always continue. And construction has always been one that they've said must go on, because if it stops, it's going to have a detrimental effect on the economy.
Yeah. What I'm finding is because of these business bounce back loans that they've announced, that there's going to be a lot of activity very soon. There's a lot of people are taking advantage, if they've got a limited company, of borrowing up to 50 grand on a self-cert basis, according to the accountant we had on here last night. They're borrowing it on a self-cert basis, they're borrowing the full 50 grand, and they're going to be in a position that as soon as we're out of this situation, they've got a war chest to go and use for deposits. So all of a sudden, potentially that could put quite a big demand on property deals, because of the amount of funding the government putting into the industry.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the rate of interest is good, 0%. They're also cert. I mean, if people have the money and they manage to maximise what they can get, and if they're smart enough, then yeah, I mean, there'll be deals out there. But the smarter people will get together with 3 or 4 others that have got this 50 grand. So you have 200 grand, 250 grand, and then you'll be able to buy something even bigger and better. And hopefully your returns will be bigger as well. So there's certainly opportunities out there if people want to come together, Glenn.
Well, it's like the
deal by you. Exactly. If they've got the money, then by all means, get together and see what can be done. And you've got to remember as well, there's probably distressed sellers out there and people that are sitting on land with planning that are stuck and want to exit and want to make it cash and get the return. So I certainly think there will be opportunities, even now, but certainly in the next few months, definitely.
Yeah, like the block of flats I phoned you with yesterday, where there's 13 flats we're buying worth 125 but 485, when because of a cladding issue which we'll get around fairly soon. So that's 40 grand a property times 13 in just one deal. But then obviously going back to the other deal we're doing with the plot, 2 of the people that are now coming through to you, which I've got to send the email to, have actually got the 50 grand loans going through, and they're borrowing the 50 grand at 2% interest, and are going to be getting 105-ish grand back from 60 grand in. So they're using 50 grand of government money, which they're allowed to do, and just topping it out with 10 grand to make themselves 40 grand over a 14 odd month period. So huge amount of opportunity out there.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So right, we're going to now start asking if they've got any questions they'd like to ask Mohit. For those of you who just joined us, Mohit is a solicitor at Miramar Solicitors, is one of the founding partners, and he's here to answer any of your legal conveyancing questions that anybody has got. So let me just go and see what questions we've got coming in. Exactly this. We've got Rita, who's just said, I'm a new investor and have secured and about to close on a property via my limited company at a rate of 3.5%. I'm in a position to buy another, but should I wait about 6 months to get landlord experience before making another mortgage application to sure I get a better rate than 3.5%? Rita, I would say take advantage of any deals that are out there. And even if you're paying a slightly higher rate, the slightly higher rate will be totally irrelevant to the discount that you can get by going shopping straight after, we're allowed out to go shopping, if that makes sense. And now David said, here we go. Hi, an opportunity has come to my way today, a lease option deal. I can rent for 5 years with an option to buy. Problem is, it's in probate. Okay, there's a question for you then, Mohit. It's been in probate for 3 years. I think it's just down to the owners not pushing to complete probate, but not sure. It's valued at 440 in the probate, and there are 3 siblings and a mother that potentially own the property. Is there a way to help them tax efficiently by structuring this deal in a clever way, or does it have to go through probate and I can then purchase?
Okay, so if I answer that question, there's nothing stopping you from renting from the executors. The traditional kind of thing that executors do is that they inherit the property, you get grant on probate, and then they sell it, and then they divide the proceeds amongst whoever the beneficiaries are. So there's nothing from stopping you from renting the property for a period of time, and it may be the case that you enter into a lease option with them, so you rent it for a specific period of time. Those rental payments get deducted off the agreed purchase price in the lease option agreement, and at that point, hopefully, they will have got grant on probate, or in the lease option agreement, we have a trigger mechanism, which states that on the receipt of grant on probate, then obviously you can exercise the option, you can exercise the lease option to buy the property. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the particular case, but 3 years seems like.
Sounds like there's some sort of legal battle going on, doesn't there?
Yeah, I know sometimes grant on probate does take a while.
What's it typically, 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd always say at least 6, sometimes 12.
Especially if they're intestate.
But 3 years, there's something going on in the background which, I wouldn't know what to say what it is, but that just seems very long. But in answer to your question, there's nothing stopping them or you entering into a lease option agreement.
Okay, so you can get the benefit of renting the property or making a margin. So it's kind of, at the moment, it'll be a rent-to-rent deal, but with a right to buy at the end. But can they actually grant the right to buy it at the moment?
I've just recently dealt with executors who've just granted an option agreement over a bungalow or a piece of land, and that option agreement was for 18 months. So they step into the shoes of the registered proprietor, and they can do what they want. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. Venu says, what things to check when buying a commercial property to be a safe investment? Venu, I would be very careful at the moment with commercial as opposed to residential, because there are a lot of people, a lot of companies who are realising that staff can work from home. So there may well be quite a lot of commercial to resi conversions going on. Obviously, you need to check with the length of the tenancy that's left if you're buying it, and the tenant who's in situ, and whether they represent a good tenant or not. What would you like to add to that, Mohit?
I do agree with you. And the point about the commercial property property part. I mean, it's always kind of been, in my view, good to kind of invest in mixed-use building as well. You have commercial downstairs, residential upstairs. I mean, the only thing about the commercial, like you said, is that a lot of businesses are realising that actually they don't need so much space, because people can work from home. That will inevitably cut costs here and there. But yeah, I mean, if whoever likes the kind of high street investment, shopping uppers, or kind of a branded commercial unit, something you like banks or subways or Pizza Huts and things like that, then always check the lease, make sure that there's no break clause in there. So tenant break clause where they could exercise the break clause and vacate, because sometimes it's hard to get commercial tenants back in. So try and read the lease carefully.
Yeah, it's very much the valuation is dependent on the tenure, who it is, and how long it is. So, it's a whole different thing. Matt, sorry, John.
So, it's what we call covenant strength. So the covenant strength will obviously determine the value.
Yeah, because if it's got a good covenant, then potentially they're going to get a better rent because they're a good covenant. So, they're going to get paid less rent, but because it's a good covenant for you, the risk is a lot less. So.
Correct, yeah. And also, I mean, with commercial leases, there's a whole lot of things to consider. I mean, the other good thing as well is that is what we call, or what you'll find in the leases is rent review mechanism. So sometimes, actually, they'll either be 3 years or 5 years. So at that particular point in time, so either every 3 years or every 5 years, there'll be an automatic rent review, which is determined either by the landlord and tenant, or if not, by a surveyor. So your rent will increase. It either remain the same or increase, but most likely it increases. So that gives you an added revenue stream. And then sometimes commercial leases as well, the tenant is responsible for the building's insurance and service charge. So usually your outgoing is actually very minimal, whereas sometimes with flat investments, you have to pay service charge, and then sometimes you get a massive major works bill, which will just kill all the rent that you've been collecting for many years. So
most commercial leases are self-repairing, aren't they?
Correct, yeah, FRA leases. So that's why there's sometimes quite attractive investments, because the landlord is actually not really paying the overhead. It's the tenant that's responsible for everything, even the repairs sometimes. So it really depends, but again, it all comes down to the lease. What does the lease say? And that's on a case-by-case, property-by-property basis.
Yeah, and the other advantage of commercial is you can literally, within hours get a property repossessed if they're in arrears, and there isn't this long drawn-out process.
Correct, yeah. You write a forfeiture as well. So, there's a lot to consider. It may be that we do a webinar on commercial leases one day.
Yeah, we can look at doing that. Let me just make a note of that. We'll actually ask everybody if they're interested as well, so give us some feedback if you'd like us to do a webinar on commercial leases. Right, Matthew says, hi Glenn, can we exchange our properties at the moment? If both solicitors are actively working and exchange one further lockdown has been lifted, but will enable us to start refurbishment works, or are things still too slow to be effectively? Look, at the moment, if the property's empty, you should be able to exchange and complete. If the lenders are still lending, which they still seem to be, if you come listen on our Friday webinars with a mortgage broker who does every Friday, the builders are probably the biggest challenge. If the builders are working, materials is now available, so there's absolutely no reason why you can't progress on a property that's empty and not have to worry too much, as long as you can confirm your builders are going to do, what they've got to do. Tunji says, I replied to your email regarding my 3-day Zoom course, but still yet to receive a reply or phone call back. Tunji, I'll get that sorted this evening. If you could drop me an email, please. I'll put my email address in. Excuse me from trying to multitask. That's me with my speed 2-finger typing. So look, yeah, the 3-day training Friday, Saturday and Sunday on creative buying strategies are running, and it's £97 to attend. So if anyone is interested, just give us a shout. Just drop me an email and we'll get it sorted. Let's have a look. Venus says, the property I'm looking at is 4 different, all big brands, in a business centre, but in Northern Ireland. Okay, that's more of a statement than a question. So, right, Sachin says, there's one for you, Mohit. If commercial to residential conversion gets delayed on development loan due to less materials available, how can we negotiate with a lender for an extension?
That's what he said, commercial to resi.
Yes, I think what he's got is a development going on. He's probably got some sort of development finance, and the answer really is to go straight to the lender and say, you've been delayed, is it possible to extend? Knowing most bridging companies and development finance, companies will say, yeah, that's fine, but it's going to cost you a renewal fee or whatever it is that they do. According to the bridging person we had on here a couple of weeks ago and the mortgage broker, some bridging development finance loans will still charge you and some are being a little bit lenient. So, and I'd say it depends on your relationship with them and how long you've been dealing with them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's just ring them, be honest. Everyone knows the situation. Everyone's in the same boat, and they'll either charge you, like you said, or they'll ask you to pay a small extension fee for however many months, and that's it. I think that's the first port of call. Just call them, whoever your relationship manager is, or whoever's dealing with your bridging, your broker, and just explain it to them. And I'm sure it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it is just one of them negotiation things, isn't it? Okay. Alan said he's late and he missed the solicitor's name and company, so Mohit, over to you to introduce yourself again.
My name is Mohit Chopra and I am a partner in a law firm in London called Miramar Legal, and I'm a property solicitor who deals with both commercial work, residential work, and innovative property solutions such as lease options, option agreements, stage delayed completions, and I work with people like Glenn, but also family offices, investors, developers, and lenders as well. So that's me. Our website is actually getting reconstructed, updated at the moment, so there'll be like a holding page, but that should be sorted out in a couple of weeks.
All we normally do on here, Mohit, is just say, if you drop me an email and I'll forward your details on to Mohit, and then you'll have his email address, and then you can all deal with it from there. So, right, so here we go. Here's a Corona question. I had a deal before Corona started up to sell my 3-bed property. My buyer's buyer dropped out of the chain. can I do a property swap, taking a 2-bed flat and move out of a 3-bed house on existing terms with my buyer raising a new mortgage to buy my property, then me taking her mortgage? I'm not sure I follow all of that, unless you do, Mohit. Did you get that?
I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, people do property exchanges, property swaps. I've actually never done one myself before,
Okay.
but other conveyancers have. Sometimes it's just a straightforward swap if there's no lending on it, so both parties just sign a TR1 and swap properties. But if there's lending involved, then obviously a mortgage broker will be able to advise
Sure. So,
more appropriately.
Mohit, I'm just going to ask Michael to explain a little bit more. Michael, I've unmuted you. If you've got a mic at your own, perhaps you can expand on what you were saying. No, Michael's.
Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. So, yeah, it's just I think it was a little bit confusing, your typed message. So if you could step by step just ask the questions, and then we can help you.
I'm trying to sell a 3-bedroom terrace property. I had a deal before Corona stepped in where I was able to sell it for 190k. That was conditioned upon my buyer finding her own buyer. Her side fell through. I'm still with an empty property because it was always being rented. And now I'm trying to be a bit creative. What can I do with this 3-bedroom property in order to generate a bit of cash, if possible? My thought was that I could take over her 2-bedroom flat and have a cash adjustment by the time she buys my 3-bedroom house.
Yes, so that could, obviously there's going to be a difference in stamp either way, and it all depends on the deposits, because you could do some sort of where there's just what's the difference in the two prices?
I honestly don't know what her 2-bedroom flat is worth. I know it's been on the market, I can find out, but I would think it's worth around about 150.
All right, so you've got to consider the buy-sell costs. Yeah, if you take it off her at 150 and give her a full market price, it's going to cost you probably in the region of 20 grand if you actually complete on it. On the other hand, you could sell her your property, take her property on a delayed completion, depending on whether you've got a mortgage on yours. Have you got a mortgage on yours at the moment?
Yeah, mine is, in the open market, mine is worth 220, and it's got a mortgage on it at 120.
Okay, so it depends on her taking a mortgage. So she could buy your property. Technically, you can give her a deposit out of your by part exchanging hers, out of her equity. So I'm pretty sure that Mohit could put something together where you take hers on some sort of delayed completion, but credit her deposit that she needs out of the equity without you actually completing on it, so that you can then sell it without paying stamp. Over to you, Mohit.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Can I put it all together by way of email and you forward it on?
Yeah, I can do that. Mohit, does that sound alright to you? You think we can get away with doing that?
Yeah, do you know, sorry, I mean, I kind of heard some of it. I mean, it broke up a bit, but look, if I've got no objection you emailing me, and then we can talk directly and try and find a solution or a way around this. That's not a problem, or just any advice you need. That's fine. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very grateful. I'll call the agent tomorrow to find out what my potential buyer thinks about this before we go any further forward.
Yeah, that's cool, because it depends on what she's got left over after she's paid her mortgage off when you bought it. But she's typically going to need a deposit. So you can you can credit her against your property as an exchange price, if you like, on your property, on her property.
Yes.
So you could exchange, and she could credit you a load from the exchange, so you don't actually have to buy it. There's going to be a way to set that up, so you can sell your property to her, and she can buy it, and you can do a delayed completion on her property, so you don't have to pay tax, stamp duty, etc. So yeah, I think you can definitely structure something around it.
Excellent. I'm very grateful. I'll put details into an email for you.
Sure. Okay. All right, and I'll forward it. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay. So Deborah says, Mohit, do you see any difficulty in a house being split into 2 apartments at the moment? And can you do a title split for her?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fairly straightforward. Not a problem. Yeah, all we need, as long as we've got land registry compliant title plans, and we agree the form of lease for each leasehold interest, that's fine. Yeah, fairly straightforward. Not a problem.
Yeah, you've got a few little complications like the leasehold and the freehold and the 2 leaseholds to get over, which isn't an issue in COVID situation. And you shouldn't have a problem if it's vacant at the moment with getting an architectural technician to go and do the land registry drawings that land registry are going to require to split it into 2.
Yeah, there's no problem. I mean, government guidance is quite straightforward on that. If the property is empty and a surveyor needs to go.
Okay, Mohit, I'm going to interrupt you there, because it's actually your mum's property. Okay, so we shouldn't have a problem, Deborah, if your mum went out while the surveyor went in and did the drawings, and then your mum can go back in when the surveyor leaves. And yeah, obviously it depends whether there's a mortgage involved and that type of stuff, but as and when you sell the top flat, you can pay off the existing mortgage.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a lender in charge or a charge holder, then obviously we need consent from the lender. But what I usually say to clients is if they're kind of discussing with their lender first,
or Deborah's replied, sorry, Mohit, there's no mortgage involved, so it's a fairly straightforward, isn't it? Create the leasehold and the 2 freeholds have to be in different titles, though, don't they? Different names.
Yeah, so we'll obviously have the freehold at the moment, which is 1 title. We'll end up creating two leases, 2 leasehold interests, and it'll be either in someone else's name or in an SPV company or something like that, and then we'll either sell them when the property will sell via an estate agent or whatever the case may be, or we'll apply to land registry before and have the title split. So we'll end up with 3 titles: the freehold title, flat A title, and flat B title, or whatever you want to call it, flat 1, flat 2. So yeah, there'll be 3 titles, but yeah, straightforward, yeah, normal work, so not a problem.
Okay, and Deborah, it will probably be somewhere between about 60 and 120 grand to do it, depending on the complexity. Right, Rita, opening question. It's got another question. I'm also buying a residential, but it's a new build and is empty. The mortgage company needs the values to go in value. That shouldn't be a problem. It's the Connells Group, but due to the COVID situation, apparently values are not working. So that's the Connells valuers. Okay. So that probably means you bought it through Connells, or you're using, because most mortgage companies will use a valuer that is still working, but you've probably got yourself somewhere tied into a Connells deal, because Connells are that they use their own surveyors all the time for any mortgages. So if you buy a property through Connells, they'll always use their own valuers. So I think there's something like, okay, no, mortgages with Skipton. We'll see if Skipton will use a different valuer other than Connell's. It would be the best thing. Skipton used Connell as values. Rita, they'll have a panel. It won't just be Connell's. So, okay. All right, well, look, Mohit, thanks very much for joining us this evening and answering everybody's questions. We've had quite a lot of response about the commercial lease webinar, so maybe we could schedule a day one day next week for where we I'll just let you roll with a whole masterclass on commercial leases.
No problem. And if anyone has any specific questions about commercial leases that they want me to answer in the webinar or want me to talk about in the webinar, then if they could email me beforehand, then that would be helpful. So at least I can cover context what people want to hear.
Okay, so if you just email me, I'll forward it to Mohit. Would be very cool. So Vinu, just email it to me, glenn@glenarmstrong.com, and put down what you're looking for, and I'll forward it to Mohit, and we'll look at perhaps if you're free one day next week to come and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll schedule something.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you, Mohit, very much for helping and everybody this evening. Tomorrow evening, I'm interviewing Jonathan Burland. That should be great fun. As I mentioned before, Jonathan's challenge has been that his jet has been locked down and his boat, which is not just a little boat, has been locked down. He's got another couple of boats that are locked down. He's been an investor for many years. He has, I believe, over 1,500 tenants, mainly in London. So very experienced investor, been investing in property since the 70s. So he's had a lot of capital appreciation. I understand he bought his first property when he was about 14, out of money that he made washing cars and having a car washing business. But I'm going to let him share that with you tomorrow. On Thursday, I've got somebody come and talk to us about creating funds, and I'm struggling for the word at the moment, trust funds, that type of stuff. So that's on Thursday. We're not going to run one on Friday this week because I'm running my 3-day Zoom training, 11 till 3, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. If anybody wants information, drop me an email, glenn@glenarmstrong.com. It's £97 and I'll be talking to you about about creative financing so that you can buy portfolios without ever running out of money, so that you can recycle cash, so you can do delayed completions and not have to pay stamp duty. Lots of that type of stuff to help you become far more profitable in property. So that's the end of the week. If you want any information on that, drop me an email. Other than that, I will look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. So take care. Thank you one more time, Mohit, and have a good evening, and most important, be safe.
Thank you. Good. Thank you, Glenn. Cheers.